Welcome to 21st Sports Recap and Reaction for Game 4 of the ALDS between the Toronto Blue Jays and the Texas Rangers. We're going to go over all the at-bats and the stats, and we're going to give our breakdown and analysis. Heading into this game, the Rangers were up 2-1 as they had won the first two games in Toronto, but Toronto won Game 3 in Texas to force this Game 4, and they needed to make it two straight on the road to force Game 5 back in Toronto. And on the mound for Texas was Derek Holland, and on the mound for the Blue Jays, R.A. Dickey. So in the first inning, Holland would let up a single to Revere off a bunt to lead off the game. Then Josh Donaldson took him deep over the right field wall, 393 feet, the two-run home run, with no outs recorded in this game. So it was 2-0 in the top of the first after just two batters. So the Blue Jays getting on Holland early. Batista then flew out and Encarnacion grounded out. And then Colabello hit a solo shot over the right field wall, 365 feet. And it was now 3-0 with two home runs for the Jays. They had 232 in the regular season, and they get two right here in the top of the first to go up 3-0. The two-run shot by Donaldson, the one-run shot, the solo shot by Colabello, and then Tulowitzki would ground out and bring the top of the first to a close. So now in the bottom of the first, R.A. Dickey on the mound for the Jays. He got DeShields to ground out. He let up a single to Chu, and then Beltre got a single, so now 2 on, 1 out. Fielder then flew out and Moreland popped out, and that would do it for the first inning. So now in the top of the second, Martin would foul out, and then Pilar came to the plate and he went deep to left center, 416 feet, and it was 4-0 off of three home runs now, two in the first and now one in the top of the second. So Pilar rounds the bases. Goins would then pop out, Revere grounded out, and that would do it for the top of the second, but not after the Jays had added another run to their lead, now 4-0. So now in the bottom of the second, Dickey would set the side down in order as he would get Andrews to struck out, Hamilton popped out, and Odor struck out. So now in the top of the third, Donaldson would get a leadoff walk. Batista then hit a double, so now two runners in scoring position. Batista on second, Donaldson on third, and Holland was done for the day. So Lewis would come in to relieve Holland. In the first batter he faced, Encarnacion hit into a fielder's choice, but Donaldson scored, and Batista was out at third. Encarnacion safe at first. So now Colabello would come up to the plate, and he hit a double, picking up his second RBI of the game, driving in Encarnacion, and it was now 6-0. So 5-0 off of the fielder's choice by Encarnacion scoring Donaldson, and then 6-0 with Colabello picking up the RBI off the double, driving in Encarnacion. Tulo would fly out. Martin then walked, and now Kevin Pilar came to the plate. He had a single that drove in Colabello, moving Martin to second, and then Goins would line out. So 7-0 as Pilar added another run as they scored 3 runs in the inning. So the Jays first with the long ball in the first 2 innings, then the third play a little small ball, and they add 3 more. So 7-0 heading to the bottom of the third. Dickey would get Chirinos to fly out, DeShields grounded out, and then Chu would get his second hit of the game, a single. Now Beltre came up, and he got a single as well, moving Chu over to third, runners on the corners. So now a wild pitch while Fielder was at the plate would score Chu. Beltre would move over to second, but then Fielder lined out. But the Rangers scored a run on that wild pitch as Chu came across the plate, and it was 7-1 after 3. So now in the fourth inning, Kobe Lewis still on the mound for the Rangers. He would walk Revere. Donaldson then grounded into a fielder's choice. Revere out at second. So now Batista would fly out. Encarnacion hit a single. So now it's runners on the corners, 2 outs for Colabello, but he would strike out, and that would bring the top of the fourth to a close. Dickey would then set the side down in order, striking out Moreland, and then getting Andrews and Hamilton to ground out in the bottom of the fourth. So now we'd go to the top of the fifth. Lewis still on the mound for the Rangers. He would get Tulo to fly out. Then Martin got hit by a pitch. Pilar would then fly out. Then Goins walked. and Revere would fly out. So that would do it for the top of the fifth. And in the bottom of the fifth, Dickey still on the mound. He would get Odor to fly out. He then allowed a single to Chirinos. DeShields then lined out. And with one out left in the fifth, with R.A. Dickey just needing the one out to be, to get the win, instead, the Jays go to the bullpen and they bring in David Price. So David Price relieves Dickey. Although Dickey was looking really good, he had his knuckleball working well. He had only allowed the one run. He had a 6-run lead, but they brought in Price. And you got to wonder, with this move, with Price bringing him in, of course, he's not going to be able to start Game 5. But, and they were up 7-1 at this point. But the thing is, too, Price, at this point, was 0-6, never having recorded a win in the postseason. It was almost as if they wanted to kind of just erase that stat, get him the win to just get him over that, as like a mental thing. But with him coming in the fifth inning with one out left, he would retire Chu, who actually had, a couple hits already in the game, and he had come across home for the one run for the Rangers. But by recording that out, Price would now be the pitcher of record and on the line for the win. So the fifth inning would come to a close with Chu lining out to Price, and now we're on to the top of the sixth. Russ Ohlendorf would come in to relieve Lewis for the Rangers. He struck out Donaldson, got Batista to fly out, then Encarnacion hit a double, and then he struck out Colabello, and that would bring the top half of the sixth to a close. So now in the bottom of the sixth, David Price would set the side down in order. He's got Beltre to fly out, Fielder grounded out, and Moreland struck out. So that would do it for the sixth inning. So now on to the top of the seventh, Jake Diekman in to relieve Ohlendorf, and Diekman had retired every batter he had faced in relief in this series, having retired 12 straight batters in the ALDS. He'd make it 13 by striking out Tulowitzki, but then Russell Martin hit a double, breaking up that streak for Diekman, and then Pilar stepped to the plate. He hit a single that drove in Martin, and it was now 8-1 Toronto over Texas. Goins would then strike out, and Pilar was caught stealing, and that would bring the top of the seventh to a close. So now David Price still on the mound for the Jays. Bottom of the seventh, let up a leadoff single to Andrews. Napoli then pinch hit for Hamilton, but he grounded into a double play. So now Odor came to the plate, and Odor hit a double. Odor came up big in Game 1 against Price, and also in Game 2. Chirinos then stepped in, and he hit a single. That scored Odor, and it was now 8-2, with Toronto still in the lead by 6. DeShields then struck out, and that brought the bottom of the seventh to a close, but not after the Rangers had put a run on the board to make it 2-4 Texas, as they trailed by 6, as I said, 8-2. So now in the top of the eighth, Sam Dyson on the mound, relieving Diekman. He let up a leadoff single to Revere. Revere then stole second. Donaldson then lined out. Batista grounded out, and Encarnacion grounded out. So that would bring the top of the eighth to a close. Now on to the bottom of the eighth. Price still on the mound for the Jays. Chu would reach on an infield single. Beltre then flied out. Fielder then hit a single, so now he had runners on the corners for Moreland. He grounded out, but Chu scored, and Fielder was safe at second, and it was now 8-3. So it's now a 5-run game. Andrews then stepped into the batter's box. He hit a single that drove in Fielder, and it was now 8-4 as the Rangers cut the lead to 4. So now Stubbs would pinch hit for Venerable, and Sanchez would come in to relieve Price. So Price allowed 3 runs in 3 innings. So now Stubbs at the plate against Sanchez, and he would strike out, and the 8th would come to a close. But not after the Rangers had added 2 runs to their score to make it 8-4 as they trailed the Jays. And this one looked like it was going to be going to Game 5. As the 9th inning was all that was left, Keon Kela would come to the mound to pitch in relief of Dyson to start off the inning. Smoke lined out, Tulo walked, and then Martin hit into a double play, and that did it for the top of the 9th. It's now the bottom of the 9th. Roberto Osuna in to relieve the game, to close it out, even though it was not a save situation, as it was a 4-run game. It would have to be a 3-run game, or if he had come in with 4 outs left. But coming in here for the last 3 outs in relief of Sanchez, he got Odor to fly out. He struck out Chirinos, and then got DeShields to fly out, as Osuna sets down the side in order and closes this one out, As the Jays avoid elimination, they even up the ALDS at 2 games apiece. As so far in this series, the road team has won every game. As the Rangers won the first 2 in Toronto, now the Blue Jays win the next 2 in Texas and will be headed for Game 5 back in Canada in Toronto. So quite a game. They jumped on Holland early, and they got a lot of home runs right to lead off this game. So they didn't waste any time getting on the scoreboard. Donaldson got that 2-run shot, the second batter of the game. No outs even recorded, and they were up 2-0. Then Colabello adds another solo shot. It was 3-0 in the first. And Pilar with another home run, as they had 3 home runs in the first 2 innings, and we're up 4-0. And before you knew it, after 3, they were up 7-0. And at that point, it was pretty much, they had this game pretty well in hand. Of course, we saw in the other Game 4 that no lead was safe, but it was in this one. Dickey was pitching a heck of a game. A little bit controversial, I guess you could say, with Price coming in to relieve him. And, you got to wonder with that, they could have left Dickey in, but by taking him out, now Price isn't going to be able to come in relief in Game 5. But at the same time, he left 3 runs, and he did eat up those innings and save the bullpen for Game 5. And then potentially, maybe Dickey, being the knuckleball pitcher, might even be able to come out of the pen in a situation, if it calls for it. Maybe they go to extra innings in Game 5 and they have to call on Dickey. You never know. But they end up, having Osuna come out for the 9th, as it ended up being a 4-run game. But Holland just got blown up. He only lasted 2 innings, 6 earned runs, and he gets the loss. Of course, Price gets the win, his first win of the postseason. He was 0-6 as a starter, and he had, pitched out of the bullpen. I think he picked up a save, actually, out of the bullpen, but he had not gotten a win, and here he finally gets a win in the postseason. So he's got that monkey off of his back. But it was a crazy game right off the rip that they just jumped on a lot of home runs. And then even in the third, they just strung together all those hits. And you saw, 3 of the batters for the Jays, 3 of their starters had 2 hits. And Pilar had 3. So he had 3 RBIs, 3 for 4. Of course, that home run. And then the 3 batters, 2 for 4 was Colabello. As he had 2 RBIs, 2 for 5 for Encarnacion. He had an RBI as well. And Donaldson, he was actually 1 for 4 with 2 RBIs. Revere, 2 for 4. He didn't get any RBIs. He did cross home. And on the other side for Texas, Chu was really the only one who got it going. Beltre, too, but Chu 3 for 4. Beltre, 2 for 4. Andros, 2 for 4. But then you look at, Hamilton continued to struggle. He did get a couple hits in Game 3, but here, 0 for 2. And then, Odor coming up again, with some production. But at that point, they were down by so much. But he did make his hit count, 1 for 4. He did come across home. Chirinos did drive him in again, getting some production there at the bottom of the lineup. But they need to get some more production from the top of their lineup. They weren't able to close this one out with a 2-0 lead going to Texas for 3 and 4. And now the Jays, who looked like they were on life support, now they've shifted the momentum in this series back in their favors. They've got the last game in Toronto, so they've secured back home field advantage. So it'll be interesting to see what happens in Toronto. It's going to be tough for the Rangers to win this one. Of course, they did win the first 2 there, but will they be able to win all 3 games in Toronto? That's going to be tough to do. I don't know. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Definitely interested to read your thoughts and opinions. Thank you very much for listening. It's greatly appreciated. I hope you're having a good day and had a great weekend and enjoyed all the sports.